What's good? What's up? Welcome in. You're watching NBA Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Chase Sr., and coming your way on today's show, I have the grand luxury of taking questions from all of our loyal subscribers here at Chat Sports. We just surpassed 300,000 subscribers, and all of these questions coming in from the people who helped us reach that milestone. Cannot wait to get to all of these questions. JC Nicker 89, does Detroit re-sign Marvin Bagley? Honestly, I'd like to see them re-sign Marvin Bagley. I thought that once he went to Detroit, he was able to really extend his NBA career and prove to people why a lot of people liked him coming out of Duke. The numbers were pretty solid, and I think that he's an important player to have on a team like Detroit as you're looking to develop some young talent around Cade Cunningham. And you look at the numbers here. After the trade, 18 games with the Pistons, career best averages pretty much outside of his rookie year, 14.5 points per game, nearly 7 rebounds, nearly a steal per game, 55.5% from the floor, and he has to improve the three-point shot, no question about that. 29% for his career, 23% for the Pistons, but he's got that elbow J and he's got that baseline J as well. Next up, Tavares, Eason, Sochan, and Duren. Who is the best? Out of all of them, I like Jeremy Sochan. My pro comp for him is Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons were to just accept the fact that he's not a point guard and he's a 4 or a 5 who can impact games to a certain degree, like Draymond Green. I had an opportunity during the NCAA tournament to watch Jeremy Sochan, and I noticed how active he was, how in control he was, how he was setting up the offense from the high post, which is what Ben Simmons does really well, as well as Draymond Green. Has switching ability on the defensive end, so I like Sochan the most, then Duren. So, yeah, those are some of the prospects that I do really like. Sochan, I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. You're going to get an impactful player who could play in this league for a really long time. Larry the Cable Guy, what could the Sixers do this offseason? Trade James Harden. They also have trade chips with Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris. Could they go after Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine? So, Sam, keep this question up because I want to address it step by step here. Could they trade James Harden? Yes, they could. But is Daryl Morey willing to move off the apple of his eye in James Harden? I still think that he thinks deep down in his heart that James Harden can still play. And a lot of people who are fans of James Harden, and some players on the Sixers roster since they got ousted in the playoffs, have said, we want to see what we can do over the course of an entire season with James Harden. He wasn't the same guy because of that hamstring injury. I think it's more because he's lost a step. But if the hamstring injury gets healed and he gains at least half that step back, he becomes a little bit more intriguing. Now, from a leadership standpoint, I don't really like him on this roster, and he's lacked that throughout his NBA career. I still think he has some value on the trade market, though. As for trading Tyrese Maxey and or Tobias Harris, you would have to trade Maxey and Toby if you want a player like Bradley Beal. If the Wizards don't take a player like James Harden. I think Tyrese Maxey is untouchable because I think he's one of the best young guards at the NBA level. As for Beal or LaVine, you're going to have to include some of the aforementioned assets to go after a Beal or LaVine. Portland Trailblazers, according to a lot of reports out there, they might try to go after both Beal and LaVine because of their relationships with Damian Lillard. Where does Joel Embiid rank among the best players in the NBA? I want you to embrace debate down below in the comment section and scale him from 1 to 10. Now, some of you might think, yeah, Joel Embiid, his lack of durability, he's not a top 10 guy. But when you finish second in NBA MVP voting back-to-back years and you lose in close races to the Joker, you're a top 10 guy. Where, though, in the top 10 is Embiid? Alec G, I think if you're OKC, you have to move up from 12 and draft Shaedon Sharpe in addition to whoever you take it to. I honestly don't know if Shaedon Sharpe is going to be available at number 12. I think that he's going to go before that. Shaedon Sharpe is a really good player who is one of the best upside scorers in this draft class outside of Jabari Smith, in my opinion. Evan Hinders, Timberwolves should sign Austin Rivers. Austin Rivers has played for a lot of teams so far in his NBA career. Everywhere he's gone, I feel as though the team has been able to win. Nuggets right now, Clippers back in the day. A good rotational guard. I don't want him starting games, but when he gets hot, he can certainly play, and he can impact games by effort as well on both ends. I like him as a rotational piece. Chef Curry, Do you think the Knicks will draft Johnny Davis at number 11 in the NBA draft? He's built for the Knicks. I wouldn't hate the selection. Johnny Davis last year, the best scorer in the college ranks at Wisconsin. He was really good, hovering around 20 points per game, less than 30% from beyond the arc. If he wants to be a consistent offensive go-to guy at the NBA level, has to be more consistent as a bucket getter because that's his specialty. So I want to set him down if I'm an NBA head coach, an executive, if I'm in the front office, and I want to tell him, look, Johnny, you have scoring ability. If you want that to be your marquee trait, you have to be more consistent. You got to get in the gym and work out some of those flaws. With the Knicks, though, yeah, I agree. They have to go after a player, in my opinion, who can help them right away. I'm looking at Johnny Davis. I'm looking at Benedict Mathurin. A player like Jeremy Sochan would certainly be intriguing. Another player out there could also enter the equation. But right now, a couple of those players, AJ Griffin, another guy who kind of comes to mind. Ready to win now players for the New York Knicks. If you helped us reach 300,000 subscribers, I just want to thank everybody for joining the movement here at Chat Sports. Type gang in the comment section if you're subscribed. And if you're not, you got to subscribe. Then you'll be eligible to type gang. Yeah, just hit that sub button for the best NBA and NFL coverage. And our live events, they continue to pop off. During the NBA Finals, 700,000 people on night one, a combined 1 million people over the last 2 games. And look, NBA draft coverage will be going live once again. It's one of our most watched events of the entire year. We'll be talking about every single pick, dissecting where all of these players go. Thursday, June 23rd, NBA draft coming up right around the corner. Magic Mitch, do you have any NBA draft sleepers? Yeah, I recently talked about this on one of our main Chat Sports shows. NBA draft sleepers right now. Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara, prototypical 3-and-D guy who could play really good defense and hit about 40% of his three-point attempts. He's climbing up draft boards right now, could sneak into the first round. Kofi Cockburn out of Illinois is just a physical low down low. Has to be better free throws because if not, he'll be a liability late in games, but on both ends, really good. Colin Gillespie, what a wonderful career at Villanova. A couple trips to national championship games, 2 Final Fours, Big East Player of the Year last year. Is just really good and a heady point guard. Jake LaRavia out of Wake Forest can kind of do it all offensively and defensively. And Kai Sotto. I think a lot of people are sleeping on Kai Sotto. I think over time, he can be a pretty solid rotational big man at the NBA level. If guys like Taco Fall and Boban Marjanovic can stay on NBA rosters, I think Kai Sotto can make it as well. Norma Zuniga, what team do you think needs the most work? Whew. Man, I mean, there's some bad teams in the NBA, but honestly, I think the talent pool and the depth of talent at the NBA level is as good as it's been in a really, really long time. I think Sacramento, they've been terrible, but that's because it's a byproduct of their environment. Detroit, you have Cade Cunningham. Houston, you have Jalen Green. Orlando Magic, you have the number 1 pick and some really good players. Like, there isn't a team in the NBA right now that I'm like, yo, they are terrible, really outside of Sacramento. But again, I think that's a byproduct of the culture. Does that change with Mike Brown and his new regime? We'll see. Tavarius, do you think the Spurs trade Jakob Poeltl? I don't know. Maybe they go after a Jalen Duren in the NBA draft and they find a big man, but I still think Poeltl gives you some value there. I think the Spurs, they need to move the needle just a little bit. You have DeJounte Murray, one of the better young players in the league, still in his mid-20s. I like his game a lot. What are you going to do with Lonnie Walker? What are you going to do with the peripheries of that roster? You trade him away, what are you getting back? That's really the big question. I'm not sure he moves the needle all that much for San Antonio. Peter Man Jones, Cavs should snatch karl-Anthony Towns and let D'Lo go by to L.A. Yeah, you'd have to do a lot if you're the Cavs to trade for karl-Anthony Towns. I mean, are you content with a cheaper Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley on his rookie deal if I'm Cleveland? I would be, right? D'Angelo Russell, I would try to move him because I'm moving forward if I'm Minnesota with karl-Anthony Towns as well as Anthony Edwards as the 2 pillars of that roster. I don't really think you need D'Lo. I think he's expendable. Maybe you can get some other players back that aren't as ball dominant. That's what I would do if I'm Cleveland, if I'm Minnesota. Christopher Nance, Thunder, champions in 5 years or less. Look, I like what Sam Presti has done. I like some of the young players on that team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, just wonderful passing ability. We'll see what they do with their draft choice. Is it going to be Chet Holmgren, Paolo Banchero? We'll see how the draft board falls. Lou Dort, also really good. Champs in 5 years or less, I'm going to go over 5 years, meaning it's outside of that 5-year window. Darlene, what do you think of Kai Sotto as an NBA draft prospect? I think he's pretty solid. He's a little bit slow with his feet. He can get burned on some switches and on the pick and roll. I'd like to see him shoot the basketball a little bit and offer more value on the offensive end. Right now, really, it's as a shot blocker and a guy who's there for putbacks as well as some alley-oops. Defensively is really my concern. I do think he has a knack for blocking some shots, but when he goes up against some really athletic centers, I think they're going to leave him in the dust. But who's to say that he can't get quicker over time? I mean, he's 20 years old. He's 7'2", with a lot of raw ability. Back end of the second round, why not take a shot on Kai Sotto? That's what I would do if I was an NBA organization. Shout out to the Philippines. Rate Kai Sotto as a player from 1 to 100. Let me know in the comment section. That guy, pal, could Damian Lillard get traded? No, I don't think so. It says Damian Pollard, but you're talking about Damian Lillard. I don't think he gets traded. I think the Blazers are going to try to surround him with some really good players this offseason. I mean, according to Kevin O'Connor of The Ringer, they're making swings for a Zach LaVine as well as a Bradley Beal. If they don't land those guys, maybe they settle for a Jeremy Grant or a Miles Bridges. I think any of those players are in play. Mark Anthony, how about AD to the Pels for Zion and a 1 or 2 role players? No, AD isn't going to go back to New Orleans. And I think New Orleans, they're armored right now with a really good team, right? Why trade away Zion Williamson? Now, they're unsure if Zion's going to sign that long-term deal, but AD going back to the place that he asked out of, I don't think that's realistic. X-Metro, why does Houston take at 17, or who do they take at number 17? A player that they take at 17. Could it be, E.J. Liddell? Could it be Ty Washington as a backup point guard? Some solid players there. $2 super chat coming in from Clint Torres. Do the Rockets need to add a Kai Sotto type center? Yeah, you kind of get the gist of what we do here at Chat Sports because we love our audience interaction. Maybe a second-round pick on Kai Sotto. Definitely not the first. Just got done talking about him, but certainly an intriguing player. Dylan Sterner, are the Sixers pretenders or contenders for the title next year? As currently constructed, pretenders. And this is coming from a guy who grew up in Philly, who likes the Sixers and roots on the Sixers. I just don't think they're mentally tough enough to make a deep run in the playoffs. Teams like Milwaukee are. Teams like the Celtics are. The Warriors are. The Sixers, they lack that mental fortitude. They certainly have to get better. So appreciate all of your questions that came in during this mailbag. You guys are the best for making what we do an absolute blast. Thanks for getting those questions submitted on this mailbag.